Welcome in Chicago to the Chicago Sports Podcast. I'm Michael Totis. Brian, alongside me tonight, we're going to be talking about not the Bears, not the Cubs, not the Bulls, not the Blackhawks, but the White Sox. They already have all their pitchers, catchers reported to spring training. I know every power ranking will have them at number 30, and deservedly so. Coming off the worst season in MLB history, they went 41 and 121. Setting the single season loss record. And if you're looking at the title, you're probably wondering, how are they going to win 60 games? How are they going to win 60 games with a lineup that is arguably worse talent-wise? And you just traded away Garrett Crochet in the offseason, by far your best pitcher, and probably a legit Cy Young contender next year. I wouldn't be surprised he's in that conversation with Boston, who also doesn't sound like they're done going after pitchers. Could also be going after Dylan Cease is what I saw. But we're going to focus here on the White Sox. But first off, Brian, how are you doing today?
I am peachy, and as much as I like football, I'm ready to talk baseball because I've had enough of this cold weather. Hopefully, it'd be like Beetlejuice if I think warm thoughts the weather will get warmer.
I like that. Yeah, I actually had my school moved to remote tomorrow. I go to Mizzou, so it snowed here like basically all day. Actually, I'm not sure. I think it is done now, but like we got about 2 inches today. It was terrible, -10-degree wind chill. It was awful. I'm actually surprised they moved it to remote tomorrow, just based on how they didn't the past couple of days. But yeah, it's very bad weather, and baseball kind of comes along right at the end of all that bad cold weather. Starts warming up, and boys of summer start to take over the sports world because college will end by then, or college basketball, and then that's basically all you have: NBA, NHL, and baseball the whole rest of the summer. So getting into a bit of the topic here tonight, can the White Sox win 60-plus games in 2025? And kind of already mentioned it, you're coming off a 41-loss season last year, most losses in MLB history in the modern era for a single team. And when you look at the team, it doesn't look much better. In fact, you could say it looks worse, and I wouldn't disagree with you whatsoever. It's a team that doesn't have a lot of talent. They didn't sign anyone in the offseason. I really like the Mike Tauchman deal because, Brian, I'm not sure how much you watched the White Sox. I stopped at one point. I couldn't take it anymore. But it was a team that just couldn't get on base. And Mike Tauchman isn't the best player in the world, but for this team, I believe he's a really good signing. He's a guy that just gets on base, good hitting mechanics, and I think for a team that lacked basically anything offensively last year, I think that's kind of what they need right now. Wouldn't you think so?
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, this is going to sound like a backhand comment. When you had the kind of season that the White Sox had last year, anything's got to be better. You got to look at that. They seem like they just was in a storm of negativity. Uh, Anytime that they went in to a town to start a series, the the pitchers that they was facing was on a hot streak. They couldn't seem to get out of their way. It's one of those things. It's like when you wake up out of bed, you're late for work, and just the rest of that day,
Yeah.
everything. That's how their season was.
Yeah, I really like that metaphor. That's a pretty good one. So getting back on the path of how do you get the 60 wins, it's not going to be the players. It's not going to be the players that all of a sudden become really good, a lot better than we thought, a bullpen that's a lot better, or even a rotation that's a lot better. This is going to come into a lot of luck. And I think one thing before I get into this a little bit more is people have to at least understand from this angle that I know there's a lot of analytical nerds nowadays across every sport. Baseball is always a math sport. It is a sport that analytics and nerd stats actually make the most sense. There's a lot of it in the NFL that they're getting into now, the NBA a little bit. NHL really doesn't have too much of it, but a little bit. But baseball is a sport where math nerds genuinely win. Like these people that they'll throw numbers at you and stats that you don't understand, but taking the time to understand them a little bit, definitely open your eye up, which is kind of the main reason why the Sox could win 60 is They were just really unlucky last year. They were really unlucky. Now, it's not to say they weren't also really bad. The two kind of go hand in hand. Like they were together at the same time. And kind of what I mean by that is these websites will come out before the season. I don't know if you've seen them, Brian, but they have like already win totals projected. Not Vegas, but just these math websites with their
Yeah.
analytics. They'll come out with win totals, and they had the Sox at about 60 wins. So these projectile or projections are 50 percentile projections. So it's about your average. Like if everything is about average for the White Sox, they'll win 60 games, which again isn't very good. You're losing 100 games. They say in baseball, you win 60, you lose 60. It's what you do with the other uh, 40 that determine how good you are. Yeah, the White Sox won't be doing much with those other 40. But one of these websites that publish stats is Pacoda. And they also will publish their first percentile, fifth, 10th, whatever. You can kind of go down the whole list of how much goes wrong, how much goes right for a team. So they actually had this published for the entire White Sox lineup last year. Luis Robert, that was his first percentile, like performance. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically as bad as he could have been. Now, a little bit of that is injury, and I think most of it is injury, but overall, it wasn't what he was projected to be. Benintendi was in the first to 10th percentile. Again, very bad, but the players are a lot better than this. Andrew Vaughn was in the 60th percentile. Gavin Sheets was 30th. Jimenez was 10th, but Garrett Crochet was in the 99th percentile. Like, no one saw him becoming an ace. I don't know. Did you, Brian?
No, I sure didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure like you, I was surprised he was the opening day starter when they
Mm-hmm.
announced him. I'm not sure I was the biggest fan of that.
Yeah, I could agree with that too. I, I mean, I can't say that was the beginning of the end, for last year, but yeah, that move didn't make sense.
Yeah, so Garrett Crochet is by far their best player last year, 99th percentile, and we all saw how he was. He was great. Eric Fetty was in the 60th percentile of his outcome, and it made sense why. He came over from the KBO. Before that, had a 6 ERA in the MLB, and it's a little tougher to tell with that, but because he got traded. But overall, he outperformed expectation. Mike Soroka was in the 20th percentile. He was god awful, and Flexen was 10th through 30th in another awful percentile. So what does this all mean? Right? Why am I, Michael? Why are you throwing numbers at me? If these are a lot of numbers. What does it all mean? It just means they were unlucky. Like these outcomes for these players' performances were not expected, and it's not like they just slightly underperformed. They massively underperformed. Like it's kind of hard to put into words how much they underperformed and didn't meet their expectations, which everything kind of comes back to the mean a little bit. Like you see that, I don't know how much you follow basketball in general, college or NBA, but you see a team maybe in the first half in college and they shoot 70% from the field. And it's like, well, hold on a minute. This team isn't going to shoot 70% the whole game. It's going to come back down to the mean a little bit. Maybe they only shoot 45% of the way. So your first half is in that 99th percentile. That bottom half is not as good. Maybe it's in your 10th percentile. So with the White Sox this year, they are that second half team that missed a lot of shots, which means in order to come back to the mean, most of these guys probably perform a lot better. I'm not saying that Luis Robert hits 50 home runs or something like that, something astronomical to
Mm-hmm.
bring it back to 50%, but maybe back to like 30, 40%. That alone should add about 6 to 7 wins just based on how bad that offense was. And then you also got to factor in injuries as well. But I mean, injuries kind of happen all throughout baseball. That's kind of something that most people expect. But again, looking through extreme examples, like the 50th percentile, that's your average, right? With the White Sox down from 66 in 2024 to 61 in 2025. So their 50th percentile was 5 more wins than this year. So I don't think anyone will argue with you that this team's worse than last year, right? I mean, Brian, I'm not sure how much you've looked at the roster, but when you trade away Garrett Crochet and don't add anyone, I mean, your
Yeah,
roster is going to be pretty much worse, right?
yeah. You don't give up one of your better players just for the fun of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be different if I really don't keep track of how strong their AAA farm team is. I mean, if you had a bunch of all-star young guys that are coming up, yeah, then you need to, let go of some veteran players. But I don't think the Sox is in that boat.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. They already have one of the lowest payrolls in the MLB, and they probably spent, I think, a total of $10 million in this offseason. So they
Yeah.
didn't do too much at all. That's like a tenth of what Juan Soto's making just this year, which is kind of crazy. Like, just hit that contract's insane. I can't believe
I,
what baseball
I just
players make.
want to know, is Reindorf, is he in some kind of trouble that he's just trying to use a tax write off with both the White Sox and the Bulls?
I wouldn't be surprised about that, Brian. I mean, it just kind of felt like, I mean, I honestly think he's just clueless. I think he's truly just clueless because he comes out there and he'll make statements about how much he wants to win and that baseball is his favorite. He wants to win another one before he passes or sells the team, whatever. I forgot which one it was. I think it was passes, but he doesn't act on it. He doesn't act on it. You see
Yeah.
these owners that want to win, like the Dodgers and the Mets, they go win. Like the Mets built a team in 2 years that looks like a legit World Series team. They didn't do it from building this farm system. They went and bought everyone. Like, and there's no reason Reinsdorf can't.
Well, and the bad thing with him, he's dragging two franchises down,
Yep.
not just one team.
Yeah, no, Reinsdorf is awful. And honestly, I could probably spend a whole hour talking about how bad Jerry Reinsdorf is about this city. We got about 13 more minutes here, so I'm going to try and stick to just what this White Sox team is and getting back into percentiles and all this math jargon. I hate math, but I'm just trying to help people understand just a little bit just how unlucky the White Sox were and just the odds of that actually repeating again because again, there is a chance. Like bad teams typically will do really bad, and bad teams find ways to lose games, is the age old saying.
Hmm.
And there's no guarantee that the White Sox have that positive regression back to the mean just because, right? I mean, they could be equally as bad. That is definitely a possibility, but the odds are just so low. They're just so low. Like Vegas has them projected at 51.5 right now, which would be if they hit 51, 10 more wins, which you could kind of factor that into the 30th, 40th percentile, somewhere in there, probably. If you're looking at 61.5 as the 50th. So somewhere in that 30 to 40 percentile is what Vegas is projecting that they come back to the mean, but they don't exactly meet that 50th expectation, which I think is totally 100% fair when you just look at the White Sox as a team. But I mean, that's just kind of the main point there. White Sox extremely unlucky. It isn't if they want to win 60 games, it's not going to be because they signed this really good player and he did really good for them and won them a couple games. It's just going to be a lot of regressing back to the mean. I hope that made a little bit of sense to that.
Yeah, it does because with me, now this is a little bit different. You're using analytics, and I'm just going old school fan. But injuries and losing your confidence or regaining your confidence is a big key. And right now, uh, that White Sox team probably don't believe much in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me step back a little bit. At the end of the last season, they probably felt that way. Hopefully, with the new manager, uh, they're going to believe in themselves and hey, this is a clean slate. If nothing else, we're going to do the best we can and try to have fun because you do better at your job when you're having fun.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And we actually got a super chat from Plank. You have $2, Michael Bryan. You guys are killing it. Plank, appreciate you. See here every Tuesday. Appreciate you showing up. There's more in the building. Ant Mass is here. Appreciate you guys both coming out, keeping the chat active. Really appreciate it. And be sure if you want to drop a question, we'll get to those in a little bit. Be sure to answer them. Again, might be Cubs fans, so again, might not be exactly the team that you root for, but we're here to answer questions if you have them as well. But I think you kind of brought it up that this team kind of probably didn't believe in themselves, and
Mm.
I can't blame them. Like, it's not a good
Yeah.
team. You're on a bad side of history, but they do have a new manager now. They don't have Pedro Grifol anymore. They actually hired Will Venable, who I believe was a top two candidate in the coaching cycle.
Hmm.
And I was actually very surprised they got him. I was very surprised that Will Venable voluntarily came to the team that's 41 and 121 coming off that type of season. And I think that goes to a lot of Chris Getz and his ability to sell the vision that he has to Will Venable. Because if there's no vision with this team, there's no reason for Venable to take this job. There's no reason for him to come to this bad team because there's no problem with continuing to be a bench coach until a better opening comes up. But he wanted to take this, and I think that says a lot about where this White Sox team might be headed. Not next year. It's definitely not going to be this year. So don't get your hopes up in 2025, probably even 2026, but maybe after that, where this team is headed. And I definitely think that there is a little bit of a path there, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, right now, you just want a better effort.
Mm-hmm.
The team not giving up on itself. Uh, Little just increments of improvement. I mean, what games that I watch, I'm gonna go old school with this comment. They looked like the Keystone Cops. They was just, you had three guys, going after a pop up, and they're looking at one another instead of saying my ball. They're you get it, and the ball drops in between them. Just silly stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
stuff that coaching could help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and see Darius is in the building. What's up, Darius? How we doing? You had a good show earlier on Justin Turner, so real good job with that. But again, mentioning the manager, Pedro Grifol was an idiot. I'm gonna just keep it a buck. He was an idiot. He didn't know anything that he was doing, especially with the bullpen. And my opinion on MLB managers, they aren't too important, especially for a team like the White Sox. Like they're not going to be good. Like you can't take like a in football with like a Mike Tomlin, like a team that you don't think is going to do very good, but they're super well coached and they overperform and make the playoffs. That just doesn't happen in baseball, really. I mean, teams can get hot at the end, but those teams at least have talent. That doesn't really happen in the MLB. But I think what a manager can do is lose you games. He can lose you games,
Yes.
and I think that's what a lot of Pedro Grifol did. And I won't be judging Will Venable based on what this team's record is. I think a fair assessment of him is how many games did he lose, and was that better than Pedro Grifol? Which, please God, because I can't imagine how it could be worse than what Pedro Grifol was doing this last year with the bullpen. But I think that's kind of how I'll judge Will Venable. And I don't know. How do you feel about A, Will Venable in general, and B, how much of an impact can he have? Just giving them maybe just a few more wins, just a couple.
Oh yeah. To me, switching managers, that's night and day. And you hit the nail on the head. Coach, manager, whatever, the sport and all like that. You 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 start being a player's buddy, and
Mhm.
I know in theory that sounds good, but you can't if your starting pitcher, if he's gassed, you need to go to your bullpen. At the same time, if your bullpen is really shaky, or a substitute player, you got to be able to, all right, hey, this isn't working. What can we do to score runs, or something's you got to pick up, and that's all on the manager. Like I said, you hit the nail on the head with that. Just getting a new manager, that could help, and how the players believe in that manager. I mean, yeah, baseball would be real super easy. Hey, we got to score more runs than the other team, and we'll win. But what do you do to achieve that? Uh, Hit and run, steal. Like I said, if your pitcher's gas, hey, we need to go to the pen. It's nothing personal. The heck with him, trying to get stats or whatever. We're trying. Our stat is victories, and that's what it comes down to. So again, I think the players getting confidence in themselves, and of course, like you said, health is always an issue in any team, any sport. Uh, but believing in yourself and making it to where when the players come to the stadium, that it's fun. It's not a chore.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with you on that. And Darius here in the chat, he asked, "Who's the breakout player for the White Sox this season?" If I had to pick one right now, I'd probably say Drew Thorpe. I really liked what I saw from him last year. He went down with a bone spur in his right elbow that shut him down for the rest of the season later into the year. But what I saw at Drew Thorpe, I was a really big fan of. He's not your typical pitcher. Right nowadays it's not as much you see the Greg Maddux type of pitcher, right? The guy that's going to just try and fool you with a lot of different movement. It's your power pitcher. I'm going to strike you out with 102, and you're just not going to be able to hit it. Your Paul Skeens, your Zach Wheelers of the world. He's not like that. He is very much more of the Maddox type. His fastball is only topping out at about 92, but his changeup is one of the best in the MLB. It already was when he came up last year, and the way that he was able to combine that fastball with a cutter, and then you have the changeup as well. I liked it a lot. He had some real stinkers, but he also had some games that he looked like a legit number three for the White Sox, and sadly for the White Sox, a legit number three probably means you're the number one. I think he could make that jump to being an ace, at least for this White Sox team this year. So
Yeah.
I mean, I hope that he's able to do that.
Again, you're hitting the nail on the head. There's nothing that I could add to that. I agree with you.
All righty. So I mean, got about 3 minutes here. I think there's not too much to discuss on this topic, but there is a big one to hit. The offseason, their one big move was trading Garrett Crochet, and I actually wasn't. I kind of expected it. I'm not entirely sure if I'm still the biggest fan overall of trading Garrett Crochet, but this team does need offensive young talent, and they got it with Braden Montgomery. He's currently the number 54 overall prospect in baseball. He was, I believe, picked 11th by Boston in this last MLB draft, but he was a top three player in college baseball with Texas A&M. He would have been a top three pick in the draft, but he tore his ACL right before the College World Series. That dropped his stock basically 8 spots. I'm a massive fan of Braden Montgomery. He could come up to the MLB right now and he could play right field as a defender. His offense needs a little bit of work, but if he can start making contact with the baseball, he's going to be a 30 home run hitter with an elite right fielder. And then they also got Kyle Teal. He was the headliner. He's currently the number 25 prospect in all of baseball, a catcher from Boston system. They already have Edgar Cuero, who I believe will make the roster. I honestly think Kyle Teal and Edgar Cuero can both make the roster this year just because of lack of talent. And then they also got Chase Meadrith, I think is how you say it. He'll probably end up being our second baseman, and Miguel Gonzalez, he'll probably end up in the bullpen for a little bit there for the White Sox. But gave up Garrett Crochet for that package. I thought the package was good enough, and it'll just be interesting to see how Garrett Crochet works in Boston. I think Boston's a little underrated, but also how these young guys work out, Brian.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the season. Like I said, get this chill off my bones because I've had enough with winter, and I want to be able to watch a game where I ain't going through a half a pack of Tums.
Yeah, I feel you on that, man. I had to stop just watching them. I think when August hit, I'm like, I can't watch this team anymore. I just can't watch anything that happens here. I'll get the ESPN notification of the final and
Yeah.
go on about my day. But see, Brandon, he's in the chat. What up, man? Good to see you in here, and Cheryl as well. One of the most active people in all of CSP, making her way in to just stop by for a little bit here. Appreciate anyone here, whether you're here 3 minutes, you were here for the whole 24 minutes so far. Appreciate it every way. And be sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe button, coming for all the new shows. But again, the White Sox can't get to 60, like mentioned, just coming back to that mean a little bit, just how unlucky they were. It's kind of feels borderline impossible to be that unlucky at the same time. But they are still a bad team. So it's definitely still in the realm of possibility, but it definitely can happen. But with the White Sox, I won't be paying too much attention to the MLB team. If the prospects start to come up, I will definitely pay attention. If you're Kyle Teal, Edgar Cuero, Colson Montgomery, those guys. I mean, I mentioned Drew Thorpe. Jonathan Cannon's another young pitcher for the White Sox. I mean, those are kind of the four guys that come to mind that actually can make the team to start the year. That's all I'll care about. Everyone else I'll care about is in Birmingham or Charlotte on their AAA and AA teams to watch. And there is one name, not sure how many people follow MLB prospects. Pay attention to Noah Schultz this winter. He is currently the best left-handed prospect in all of baseball. He's 6'10", and he gets the Randy Johnson comp. He gets the Chris Sale comp because he has the 3/4 release that they both have. He's something else, and he looks to be very good. Which probably means he'll end up in Boston in a few years because that's where all our left-handed pitchers end up. But I think
I had the chance of, like I said, I live just south of Indy, and I went to an Indianapolis Indians game, and at that time they was the Montreal Expos farm team. That's when the Expos was in existence. Randy Johnson was the pitcher. I look out at the mound, it's like that guy looks like a giraffe.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
no,
when he
Rick,
let go
massive.
with the ball, it was only his hand was like 3 feet away from the plate.
Yeah, that's the thing that people I think don't understand how hard it is to hit someone of that size. It's not so much how hard he throws it; it's just where the ball gets released. It's already at the plate. Like
Well, and
97 will look like 105.
yeah, and if you hit it up the middle, he's got that reach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So definitely pay attention to Noah Schultz. Hagen Smith was their last draft pick in the past draft. He's the number 2 left-handed pitching prospect. They have the number 1 and number 2 left-handed pitching prospects. And if there's one thing the Chicago White Sox can hold their hat on or tip their cap to in the past few years, it's that they can develop left-handed pitching. They can develop left-handed pitching quite well with Chris Sale. You saw Garrett Crochet. Now they got 2 really raw, really young guys in Noah Schultz and Hagen Smith, who was the SEC leader in strikeouts the previous season, which SEC baseball is no joke. Those hitters are really good. Mentioned Braden Montgomery was on Texas A&M. There's a lot of talent in the SEC to lead them in strikeouts. It's very impressive, and you just kind of hope these guys all make their way up to the MLB. I don't think Schultz will be up soon. He's still got to get stretched out a little bit, maybe end of the year, call up sort of situation. But I think that'll do it for me and Brian tonight here, talking a little bit about the Chicago White Sox. Obviously, not the most exciting team in the city, but got to give them their due diligence a little bit with spring training coming around the corner. I actually think Noah Schultz might be getting the start against the Cubs here. It might be that Saturday against them. I can't remember off the top of my head if that's exactly 100% true, but he might be getting that start against the Cubs. So both sides of Chicago might be able to see Noah Schultz in action on the mound, which will be really cool. So keep your guys' eyes peeled out for that this upcoming Saturday at 2:05 p.m. Might be Noah Schultz, it might not be, but if it is, you're going to want to tune into that, whether you're a Cubs or a Sox fan. See one of the best young, talented pitchers in the entire pipeline of the MLB. But appreciate everyone's. Yeah.
He's going to be the only pitcher that could block out the skylight.
Yeah, right? Yeah, because just how big his arm span is, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, at about 20 minutes down here for White Sox talk from myself and Brian. Appreciate everyone stopping by. If you're still here and haven't already, hit the like, go comment down below, hit the subscribe button. You're not going to want to miss any of our live streams. We're live streaming here every night in every Chicago team. Don't want to miss out on any news. And if there is breaking news during the day, someone will get on here and talk about it with you guys. So hitting the notification bell, you won't miss any of that. But I'll get out of your ear now. It's been about 30 minutes. Have a good night, everybody.
Take care.